Money. Just making sure we got the video camera on. Oh, Mere Mortalites, welcome back to another edition of the Mere Mortals. We've got Musings today. Deep conversations with a light-hearted touch, where Musings we focus a little bit more on the deep conversations, the thoughts, the philosophizing in the park.
Maybe just philosophy in the park. That's
philosophy
easier.
in the park, yeah. Probably easier to say too. In any case, today I wanted to bring up a topic. Now, I originally was thinking of talking about easy money, but more around the side of your mindset behind obtaining money now in what you know versus what might have been like in the past, but you had to go and find a job. Mm-hmm. But I also was thinking, we've talked about money a lot, and we've talked about jobs, and we've talked about that in some of the latest conversations. So I wanted to spin it a little bit different, and it might be around easy money, but we'll probably be leveraging a lot of existing things that we've talked about, thoughts that we've had, to kind of go into this conversation. Now, again, this got brought up around, and I've mentioned it now, a conversation I had with our good friend the other day, a couple of weeks ago, where he was suggesting, if I had more money, I could, do X, Y, Z, maybe be happier. And I came up with a conversation of, if you're spending $3,000 a month, what if you could spend $30,000 a month? How would that change your life, right? So my question that I wanted to pose to give some practical experience for all folks at home is, kind of just talk through what would we need on a per month basis to live the life that we actually want to live. Let's include relevant things for people, so like rent and food and whatnot, just to kind of give people an insight into what does that look like for us in reality? Because I think that people by the by might think that you need a lot more to just live your life on an ongoing basis, where I think when you really looked into the numbers and you really dissected, right, you don't need as much. And then from that, we can actually just talk about, how easy is it actually to just achieve that, right? Because I think that is that is a hard conversation that people don't have with themselves, where you might go, okay, well, I want to be a lawyer and I want to be earning 150, 160, 170 grand a year, right? But you might actually look at your life realistically and go, actually, if I was earning 65 grand a year, I could be living the exact life I want, and you might be a hell of a lot happier and have more time to do it in that way. So this is not when I say easy money, it's not that, you can make cash money on NFTs or, invest the right way and you get all this money. No, it's actually, you can earn the right income in a much easier way than you might think otherwise. In fact, you might go, if you really enjoy training people, like as a personal trainer, sure, you might not get as highly paid as maybe a CEO, but if you enjoy it and that lets you live your life that you can articulate well correctly, then all power to you. That is the easy money that you want to go for. So I think let's begin first just in a little quick convo on just what does it look like on a monthly basis. What would you say, and we'll add some fat to it, so it's obviously not like we're living right on the means. What would it look like, first of all, a monthly basis that you'd be like, okay, I'm happy with this amount of money to allow me to live, and then we'll just step a little bit further, so we'll show some people some realistic things. What would be the dream amount of money? And the dream amount, what would be your dream lifestyle per month basis that you could explain to people?
So the first thing that came up to mind was a quote from Charles Dickens that I no way I'm ever going to remember this off the top of my head, but I remember the essence of the quote, and so I looked it up. So this is in David Copperfield. He says, annual income £20, annual expenditure £19, 19 shillings and 6 pence. Result, happiness, i.e. I'm earning slightly more than I'm spending. Annual income £20, annual expenditure £20, ought and 6. Result, misery. So I 100% think along those lines. I do not ever want to be in a situation where I am seeing my, let's just say, net worth decrease.
Dwindle down.
So it's okay if my income is less than my actual expenditure, as long as my underlying assets are improving. And so it's okay if I've got a bunch of stocks and they go up X amount in that year. I'm sort of counting that as income, even though it's only a paper thing. So for me, 100%, the biggest, most radical change for my life would be if I went underneath that, and then my net worth wasn't increasing. Once again, it's a bit hard with stocks and whatnot. Sometimes you can have good years, sometimes bad years, but just as a whole, if I went under that, that would be the biggest catalyst for me to reevaluate my life and to do something 100%. Now, you don't want to be right on the edge as well, because that's not super fun. So a couple of numbers for me. Over the past 5 years, and this is taking different situations into account, me paying rent, me not paying rent, me traveling, me living at home for a bit with the family, etc., etc. The past couple of years, it's probably been about between like 18 to 22 grand of expenditure
per year. You're talking
per
about
year.
So let's go down per month just to try to make
so
it
per month,
per month might be a good way.
let's just say 2 grand then.
2 grand.
That's the easiest.
Yep.
So, for me, 2 grand a month expenditure, and so I would want to be.
And what would you say your
above
biggest expenses per month on that? What?
I could look this up, but it varies per year. Some years it was plane flights; they were huge.
Let's just talk about the last couple of months because we haven't really been flying. Or
it's got to be rent. It's always rent.
Okay.
Yeah. So rent, food comes afterwards, and then everything else is dwarfed in comparison to those two.
Okay. So they're saying, and for me,
I'll chuck up a couple of graphs. People can see my
Kyrin would have all his data.
Yeah, I've got lots of data.
Mine would be sitting at about 3,000 to 3,500, I'd say. And so for me, that's because I've got other assets
Property
and things that I pay for. Exactly. Yeah. So I've got property, cars, whatever that I'm paying for. So obviously there's extra expenses. But by the by, when it comes to things like food or my outings and whatnot, it can get covered all under that. So yes, I've got extra things that I'm paying for, but I'm not going out every single night and having heaps of drinks. I'm not going out for massive events or going to Dream World or theme parks, something like that.
You're one of dichotomies, one, because you will splurge, I would say, on something totally unnecessary, i.e. 2 new cars in like
2 years, something like that.
Less than 2 years. It's been less than that.
Yeah,
it's like a year and a bit. Yet you will eat like sometimes like the rice and beans type of diet. Yep. You will.
I'm an interesting dichotomy when it comes to those sort of things. I can go extremes between some of the assets.
You know, like I won't pay for this parking. I'd rather just walk for half an hour.
Exactly.
I don't want to catch that. The cross ferry term or the what's the one that goes under the water?
Oh, the toll.
The tolls, like toll bridge. Like you'll drive well out of your way to avoid tolls.
Yeah.
Me too. I do that all the time.
Yeah. So there is that dichotomy. But I guess what I'm trying to say is like, yeah, look. It's obviously a little bit more from a month-to-month perspective, but it's about, let's say top end, 3.5 grand, right? Now, we'll keep it at that per month, right? So we're talking 2 grand, we're talking Australian dollars, folks. So if you're listening in the US, whatever, equate this down, 0.7,
0.75, something like that.
So let's say,
3/4.
for all intents and purposes, that's kind of like living our life. Now, I could envision me continuing to live my life for a long time. Obviously, if you inject family, if you inject kids, this all changes. That's cool. So I totally understand that. So that's what I'm saying. But like my current lifestyle, that is what I need to continue living it, right? So 3.5 grand a month. Awesome. Cool. Fantastic. What would you say now would be, let's just crank it up before we expand it out. What would you say would be like the dream, to live like your dream month or like a dream month ongoing? Not like crazy, not like fucking partying in Ibiza every single night. Now, if you want to do that, okay. It's going to be a hard time to try and calculate this, but let's just say an ideal month for you. What would that look like? Would it be much more than the $2,000 a month, let's say?
It would be, but not too much. I wouldn't want to be so worried about money that, it's such a large amount that I'm worried about it being siphoned off. I want it to be at the point where it's like, I don't have to check if the dividend came in this last month because, it's a couple $100. Like, I don't mind that much. But if I was getting paid, 20 grand per dividend, or 20 grand is a one-off thing that comes in maybe multiple times a month, that would be stressful because I'd want to be checking like, hey, is that coming in? Because that actually is a shit ton of money. Like, I don't want that just getting lost.
Yep.
So, for example, we split the rent, but you send me the rent. I don't check. I check maybe once every 6 months.
I don't send Kyrin the money.
Yeah. Kyrin's resources have been dwindling ever since he moved in with Juan. So definitely above, but not too much. Like, there's definitely a limiter.
Let's put a number.
Let's
just
put
so
some
we can.
Numbers. I think.
Like if I say if you went 3.5, if you went 3.5 a month, if you were, let's say, spending 3.5 a month, do you reckon that would cover a lot of our extra stuff that you
wait,
could do?
so you're talking about me spending more?
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
So say right now it's 2 grand.
Yeah.
if I said to you, I'm trying to put a number on it, like if I said to you, if you doubled it.
Yeah, double. Probably about double would be about right.
So if you doubled it, you would be able to do pretty much anything you really wanted to do, basically, on a month-to-month basis.
Without thinking about it.
Yeah,
so,
okay, cool.
Within reason. Like,
Again,
obviously...
we're not talking like crazy stuff. Well, like for
like
you...
a once-off crazy thing. I would be totally okay with, like, hey, you want to fly to Japan for, like, a week holiday? I've got, you've got 5 days off. All right, I'll fly to Japan.
Yep.
That sort of thing. But, once again, like, once a month sort of...
Sure, exactly.
Decision like that.
Yep. Now, and then for me, if I was to really crank it up, and this is with, I've had some months where I've been really, really generous. I've bought things for the family, I've bought things for partners, I've bought things for my sister, like all this sort of stuff. And like nice big gifts. Lived my life, like just went out almost every single night for food, had lots of drinks, went to places, traveled. And I've topped out some months of like $8,000, $10,000, right? Mm. Now, is that every single month? No. But I'm just gonna say, for me, a dream type of lifestyle for me, let's go all the way up, $10,000. $10,000 a month would be like my spending level of like, okay, that's like, that's again for me, that's like I'm doing everything I want to do. Like I'm not having to pull back on what I'm doing. Now that's a lot of money. That is a lot of money. Now, yes, there's existing assets that I'm paying for or whatever, but to me, like I would struggle to spend $10,000 every month now, but I'm sure I could figure out a way to make it like my dream way of living. Awesome, I could do it now. So okay, so we're saying yours $4,000, mine's $10,000. So there's different ways in the way that we live our life and whatnot. But then this is where it comes down to the point of, and again, Mere Mortalites out there, you might be somewhere in the middle. You might be somewhere at the lower end of $4,000 for your dream. You might be 10. You might be even more, 15. Where it gets me into the conversation is, and this is what we're having a chat with our friend Nathan, was once you kind of calculate that out. Well, let's just say, $10,000. And again, it's an in the moment thing. I recognize other factors come into play to it, but if you focus on, like you said with the quote, if you can focus on just having enough and not being at like the absolute like razor thin margin, but having enough to be like, okay, I can do that, and even to the dream level, plus just have that a little bit more, so you have a little bit of safety, a little bit of savings, etc. Then what is the need to be earning 20, 30 grand of expenses per month, let's just say, to be able to live that lifestyle? So so I'm going to take it jack it all the way up to my, dream living, which is like that $10,000 sort of like conversation, right? And of course, it's taxes and blah 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 blah. But for me,
and this is two single dudes speaking as well.
Exactly.
If you've got an extended family,
and that's what I'm saying. Like obviously, factors change, right? Yeah. But look, $10,000 a month, I reckon, even if you've got a family, that's probably you're talking. But if you're talking like a dream, maybe it's 20, whatever. Yeah. But what that equates to, at least for in Australia, that's like an annual salary of, again, a monthly income of, let's say, $15,000, $16,000 because of taxes and whatnot. Now that's quite a bit of money, and you're going to struggle to find a lot of jobs that are going to be like that. But I could envision that somebody who might go down the path of working in a corporate role, something like that, after about 10 or so years, you might get to the position where you're actually earning that much money, where you could be literally living your dream monthly income sort of expenses to do whatever you want. That's where my conversation goes, okay, the whole growth for growth perspective, is there a need for you to then progress? Let's just say you get to a spot in that role, or you're doing something else that's self-employed where you're earning that amount of money. That's where the hard conversation goes, okay, well now let's just call that the easy money level. Like that to you now is easy money because it's maybe you're established in that position, or you're in that role, or you're good self-employment. That's where I think you need to have those hard conversations with yourself on, okay, why would I really need to go and earn more money? And if you can, more to say that you can definitely you can talk yourself into earning more money, but I think you should have a reality, like a real view on, well, if this is like the maximum I would spend really in the dream perspective, is there really a need to be just banking up money for money's sake? Really? And I think that's for me, more and more I'm just into like, no, it isn't. And knowing that per month income of like the dream per month income, if I could achieve it, I'd just be a little bit higher and then have some savings backed up. That should then be able to dictate a lot of other things. So we've talked about in the previous musings around, for me, I made a decision to go from one job to another and go down in terms of income. But for me, it still put me a little bit, regardless of those two options, I was still in a position of, I'm still getting enough that I can live the monthly expense that I'm going to be living anyways. So actually, in the end, money shouldn't be a question in that choice. And so that made it really easy when I actually looked at it that perspective. I went, actually, it doesn't matter. Just pick the one that's actually giving you the most learning, the most growth, more, etc., like actual engagement and whatnot. Because the money aspect actually doesn't matter when I focus on the fact that that's going to be my dream spent anyways. So why would it matter to go the other way?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's a hard topic, man. Like I always try and make sure I'm not like speaking out of my ass just because I got, like, maybe I am just super super lucky and just got into a rare position. Like I wonder, like, if it had been, you know, other people put in my shoes, would they have been able to get to the same position I'm in? Or, like, would everyone have sort of, like, doesn't matter who you are, if you just put yourself in, like, you know, raised with my type of family, gotten the, you know, opportunities that I got with regards to, like, a scholarship, and got lucky with the job. I got a job when the mining downturn was sort of happening, that sort of thing. So I always try and have a little bit of think about that. But yeah, I would say so many people get caught up in the going after that next one, and then I think also not being able to factor in the costs that are associated with that. So when you jump up to, you can probably speak to this better. Well, you would be able to speak to this better. Managing people is a huge jump up from just being the dude doing the designs and whatnot. Like that, does the pressure magnify by like 5x, 10x? I don't know. What is it like? And which usually happens. There's very few roles in life where you can earn 200k a year, which is roughly what we're saying, or 150k by not managing other people. Usually,
like it's rare for you to be like that very specific subject matter expert that's like earning, you know, that much money.
Yeah.
Unless you're like in a specialty sort of field. I would say that it doesn't magnify, like, say if you're looking after 2 people, it doesn't like 2x, and you're looking after 3 people at 3x's, and then you're looking after 100 people at 100x's. But it does definitely magnify more in terms of what you have to handle from a day-to-day perspective, and you handle some emotional response as well from other people, because you know you're looking after what's that sort of like network. So like, you know, if you've got 3 people, there's however many like networks can be between them. There's 4, there's 5. It obviously like just gets bigger and bigger much quicker. So you're also having to manage those interactions, those emotional responses. Someone getting upset or someone not being able to come in, and you're managing more than yourself. Yes, there's like a lot more headaches that you have to deal with. And like I was saying, like you know, if let's say you have the option, and this is an interesting conversation. Well, let's say you're in a position at your role, your job, that goes, okay, say you're a really expert at whatever, concrete pouring, or a specific thing about concrete testing, and you're earning 100 grand, and let's say your yearly expenses are 80 grand, and that's the way you're living your life, like you absolutely love them, whatever, and your boss comes along and says like, hey, how about you look after this whole plant, and we'll pay you 200 grand. But now you're overlooking all of these things. Maybe you're not doing the stuff that you love. There's 2 ways to look at it, because from one perspective, you could be thinking on the side of, like, if you're motivated by the extra learnings, the empowerment, the etc., whatever, I could see how you could go down the path of, yes, I do want to do that, and it's harder money. Let's just say harder money to obtain, but it's more money. But you're going to be more stressed. And if you're maybe not someone who wants to go down the path of looking after people, maybe you really enjoy doing that concrete testing or whatnot, maybe it isn't the right choice, because at the end of the day, the thing that you're doing is, you know, if it's going to continue, you know, it's enough to be able to give you all the stuff that you need from a savings perspective, plus living the life that you want. You're already enjoying it, so you might actually decline that. And I think there's a overwhelming view that if you decline that, it's just seen as a straight up bad thing. Like, oh, you done the wrong thing. Why would you not have done that? Maybe kind of like the equivalent of like you're getting job offers to go back to mining, and it's a good amount of money. I got
one actually just before via WhatsApp.
There you go, right? So you're getting like these things, and you know you're declining or not even responding. Is that a bad thing? Like people are like, what the hell? You're like, there's all this money, but it's like that. You know, it's not that you're like, you know, you're doing something that's not getting paid, but you could be doing that for getting paid. No, it's like not that equivalent. It's no, well, I'm doing this because I don't need to go and do that, and I'm living now a life where I'm happy enough with what I have. Sure, you could triple it, quadruple it, quintuple it, but right now you've got easy money coming in that's allowing you to live the exact lifestyle that you want. Why would you go down the path of having to go and multiply that money for no apparent reason?
Yeah, I think like maybe a good way to catch this would be like, okay, the goal is the dream life, so that's what you want. That's what we all want. It doesn't, imagine money didn't exist at all. You just want that dream life thing.
Yeah.
So that's sort of what you want to get. Now, what's the better way of getting that? Is it by, the most practical way? Is it by increasing your income and doing it that way versus maybe like increasing your income a lot, but you're having to do more things you dislike doing, versus maybe decreasing your expenditure and maybe having to do less things that you enjoy, less things that you hate. I would always argue that you're probably going to get more bang for your buck, at least starting off decreasing, like taking away stuff from your life. So do I need that Fitbit, the Whoop subscription?
Yeah.
Do I need subscriptions to Netflix, Amazon, Disney, Stan? There's like 7 others that some dude the other day was listing, and I just went, man,
dang,
holy crap, just really obscure.
You don't have to watch it in 4K.
Yeah, really obscure movies from the 1960s, and there's like a Stan version of that. Just like, man, unless you really love movies, that's. But
you might. That's the thing. Recognize what is worth it to you. Like recognizing what is worth to you, and then being like, okay, that definitely should be. But then it's when you make those extreme decisions. Like, let's say someone's got 7 streaming, and you're paying for like 3 newspapers and all that sort of stuff, and then you go, okay, well, I've got all this, and that means I've got to work this extra 5 hours in this other thing that I don't want to do. Like, is that actually what you want to be doing? Like that conversation of like, is it really worth all those expenses? Because you could be earning $1 million a year and find a way to spend $1 million a year, but is it really something that you want to be spending on? If you could really, really think about, like, if you could go, okay, well, maybe I can knock it all the way back down to $100,000, and then just be having a $100,000 job that I really, really love. Is that better? I think yes. I think to me, it's like, yeah, that's the better approach.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. I would say, like, let's not even think about billionaires and the people at the heads of the company, but the vice CEOs, or like the CEO, or like the third or second or third person down the rank. How many of them would say, yeah, man, like, this is my dream job. This is exactly why, like, I'm built for this. This is where I want to be. I just get the feeling like not many of them would. I could be wrong, because I don't actually know that many. But I sort of get the feeling there's the game of rising the ladder, and that game is just, it's like sort of unwinnable in a way. It's like, it's sort of like the Olympics as well. You want to be the fastest in the world, man. You're probably not going to do it. So you're probably not going to get there. So are you really going to enjoy being fourth fastest in the world and never being better than that? Hopefully, if you really love running, but I just wonder, like, how many sprinters just like are having a shit time because they're not the fastest.
Yeah. Well,
I always wonder with that.
But, I mean, I think I more summarized it. I think it's just enough money to have an easy life and a happy life. And I think I'll take that back. Saying happy life's a bit all over the place, but having an easy life, or the life that you want to lead, and just figuring out, kind of just engineering it backwards and going, okay, well, that's actually the reality of it. So I think being informed on that and having that hard conversation with yourself can lead you to take better actions and respond better when opportunities come your way, and you don't have to do things purely because you just see that, oh, well, more money must be better. Like, no, that's not always the case.
Yeah. I want to bring up gambling here, because I think there's 2 interesting ways to go down this. One is, just so you can remind me if I get distracted. One is you can actually make easy money through gambling. And then the other is, one of the problems gamblers really have is that they deceive themselves. And so my dad, my dad's a strange one, just like me. So he has a thing called the Finkelstein report, and which is basically, he started going to the casino because his friend went there, and he was like, his friend was inviting him in, and his friend was a platinum member, so they get free drinks, they get little perks, he can park and whatnot. And my dad really enjoys hanging out with his friend, so he started going to the casino, and then he was like, I could get these things. Like, I could get these perks, but you have to gamble to get that. Now, my dad has a spreadsheet at home where he would just calculate each time. Like, I put this much money in, I'd press, like, put $100 in, this is how much I got back, put it in, and he found out, to get all these perks, I need to spend this much per year. I need to do this. Does it make sense dollar-wise for me to be spending, on average, $8,000? Some years you'll win some, so it'll be $2,000 that you're spending, like losing in the casino. Other years it'll be 16.
Yep.
Does that make sense for me for the benefits that I get from free drinks, friendship, parking, like 5 nights free hotel, etc., etc.? I really think that's useful to do those sort of calculations. So you were talking about it with your own, calculating your own expenses, and then not deceiving yourself that, that doesn't matter. And so what my dad says is, what he notices, most of the gamblers there, they will say they'll selectively forget their losses. That one didn't count. That one was like, that one was just a side bet I did for fun. I didn't matter. Like it didn't matter if I win or lose that one, but yet you still lost money on it, and whatnot. And they'll always say like, big win today, up 700, but they won't talk
down
about
13,000 overall.
Yeah, exactly. So that's sort of like one aspect of it. And then you were talking about easy money. So I mentioned this before. My brother he somehow on TikTok found a dude who was like, hey, you can actually make money via gambling. And now me initially was like, dude, you're going to get your ass kicked here. You're say goodbye to whatever money you have now, because it's getting taken from you. But it's really simple, and it makes sense. Gambling companies want you to gamble, and so they offer incentives for you to do that. Now, as long as you just stick to the incentives and play with the incentives, you almost certainly have a win. So this is bonus bets.
Yep.
Put in $50 on this horse. If it wins, you get your money. If the horse comes second through fourth, you get your money back in bonus bets or something like that. And as long as you just stick to that, you can make money. And like he made a couple of grand last weekend. That's enough to live on. That's and it's all pure income. You don't pay taxes on that.
And and we're not suggesting here that the easy money suggestion is like just go gamble, but be open to the idea that there might be other ways that you can actually get this income that you need for whatever maybe the X life that you want to live.
I think there's a lot of ways out there, but you sort of have to know someone in the know, I guess, in a way. And it's going to take time and effort as well. I don't think there's like automated ones, which is sort of what people want. Like he can't automate that. He'll get kicked off the platform, the gambling platforms, because they'll see
there's limitations.
They'll see it. Like he has to add in filler bets, which he calls, to be
throw
like
it off.
To throw them off, so that they know like, oh, he's actually losing on our platform and whatnot. But what about that? Do you think there's just money laying around that if someone's like, all right, I don't want to go down the route of climbing the corporate hierarchy, which in a job that I'm probably not going to like. I want, we discussed last time, how many people really enjoy their jobs? Yeah, like it's got to be less than 5%.
And I think we've talked about this before, but I think like there's other means of earning income that doesn't implicitly mean you have to go up the corporate ladder. And sometimes the whole sense of like going up the ladder, you can go sideways on the ladder and just still go do something else that's a similar income but still be enjoying your life, right? Like you might go, let's just go a different example, you might be a carpenter and they want to become an electrician and just do that, and maybe it's the same amount of income, and it doesn't mean you're going up, but it might be like you're still getting the same amount of income but you're getting enjoyment and growth from it. So that could also be a positive thing. I think this stigmatization that you're not going up and getting more money doesn't necessarily have to be like a thing that you have to be pushed towards.
When you said easy money, I was sort of thinking about it a bit. I was like, there's sort of like two definitions of it. There's the easy money as in like you can get it really quick, and you don't need a whole lot of skill, like a real quick, I got it right now. And this is where I'm thinking that's the bad kind of easy money. So that's like, exactly. I'm going to gamble. I'm going to scam someone out of their NFT. I'm going to, steal. I'm going to do something that's maybe a little bit, is this, create a spam bot. I'm going to do something which most people would be like, I don't know about that, man. Like that seems...
It's a bit dodgy.
Yeah, you're undercutting some dude who's in a vulnerable position. Yeah, have you heard of... there's people who would like... here's a perfect example from history. was a dude who had a telegraph service or some. He was supposed to be getting messages through the telegraph or the phone lines when they were just invented.
Yep.
But his competitor, who was also, I think, a mortician. What do you call it back in the day when you would get the bodies? You were the dude who. I'm just gonna say mortician. You'd be a dude who'd come in that casket. Undertaker. That's what I was thinking. And his competitor's wife ran the switchboard, and so anyone who was trying to go to him, she would just switch to her husband.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
That's kind of fucked up. That's easy money, but that's kind of bad easy money.
Maybe ethically wrong.
Yeah. The other way of easy money I was thinking was sort of like my brother. I don't particularly see it as a bad thing that he's taking money from the gambling companies. In terms of doing harm to the world, I don't.
How much positive is gambling doing to the world? Maybe.
Is it good in any way for him? Not really, because I don't think he's getting much enjoyment out of it either.
Yeah.
He's just running it like a business. So I'm more thinking how many of those business type opportunities are there, which are essentially you're developing a small easy skill. So he didn't have to do 4 years of engineering to do that.
It could be a couple of weeks of just learning to get to that level.
He just uses Excel. He just uses simple things. How many of those types of opportunities
so
do you
many.
think
I
there
could
are?
imagine there's so many.
Yeah.
Lots that I can think of top of my head. Lots that we're not even thinking of top of my head.
You want to list a couple of those? Because I'm sure they're out there, but I'm also
just you could just list so many just from website perspective, still e-commerce, affiliate marketing, advertising, leveraging blogs and turning it into sales, creating just Facebook funnels to sell products, all that sort of stuff. Again, it seems a little bit but you need money. Some of these you only need $1,000, $2,000 to actually get started, and you can evolve them very quickly, and there's established path for them, etc. Again, you just have to put some learning for it, and then take the path and invest in from an hour perspective, but you can also make quite good money from them if you want to go down that path.
Yeah, so. I would also say the real intriguing ones are the ones which you're just not thinking of. How Instagram, being an influencer, that can be a job is mind-blowing, and not just a starving artist sort of job. Those girls,
money,
girls, and there's guys as well, but definitely the girls are getting bank. For
100%
for doing that. So
I think the summary for me is look, there's a lot of ways that you can be making money, but again, if you're thinking through what exactly is it that you just need, it'll give you a guidance on then you can start looking around and being comfortable with even if it's influencing, you can go, look, if I was a small influencer, I make this amount of money, actually that enables me to live my life. Awesome, I'll just do that. So, and you don't have to feel you have to have 2 million followers. No, you don't actually. You can live the happy life you want. It kind of applies also back to our podcast. Do we need it to be a podcast that's 20 million followers and 100 million plus downloads? Not necessarily. No, there's actually a point where it's actually that's totally enough. That's fine. 1,000 loyal followers that give you X amount of money. That's all you need. Cool, fantastic. Let's just work towards that. And that's a lot better approach than saying how do we become, how do we get 10 million followers? Okay, that's a different question.
Yeah, for
getting
sure.
10 million followers apart from 1,000 loyal followers, that's a different conversation altogether. So.
Agreed.
All right, folks, we're going to leave it there for the Mere Mortals podcast today for Musings. So I'm going to leave you with a little note that we normally do. I'm going to suggest to you, share with a friend once again.
Yeah.
Share with a friend. I would love for you to try and share with a friend how they can connect up and send us a Instagram. See if you can try and explain it. I'd love to see if we've explained it well enough in a lot of the other podcasts to suggest, look, could you try and explain it to somebody else? Or at the very least, share with them this podcast, whether it's YouTube, Spotify, all the value-enabled podcast sites as well. Make sure you try them out, folks. But for now, anything else?
No, I think that's a good place.
Good, that's a wrap up, folks. That's it. Mere Mortalities. One out.
Kyrin out.